Today's topic is Beyond Surveys, Understanding Social Ads in its real context. And it is, I think, our fifth webinar in the series Agile Insights Tools. That's a very special webinar because we have Stefan Schönherr as a guest. He is VP brand and media and partner at iSquare.
Hello.
My name is Frank Buckler, co-founder of Supra Tools, and the whole idea of this webinar series is actually to show applications of Agile Insights tools. And all started with a platform iSquare has initiated called Spark platform, where they have different standardized insights tools like the in-context tool, which we see today. And Supra Tools, collaborator of iSquare, very much fits into this idea of standardizing and scaling research by using those kinds of tools. But all is nothing without the use case and the application, and that's where we meet today with the topic we see here, understanding social ads in the real context. So that's why I'm glad you are here, Stefan. I know you have lots of interesting cases and examples to show. Yeah, take us through, and I will ask questions if I have some.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you for the invitation. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. Yeah, as said, the topic of today is to understand how ads work in their context of basically of media consumption. And I have different examples with me to show, okay, it's important to understand this context. It's important to invite real users and let them do whatever they want to do on these platforms, and then see how ads fit into this behavior. And yeah, I think you made a great introduction, so I can get this started. Maybe before we jump into it, I have some short words about iSquare as a company. For everyone who doesn't know us so far, we were founded in 1999, so we are a really grown-up company, so to say. Head office is based in Berlin, but these days we are also working in other countries and have offices there. Most important, I guess, is the New York office and the London offices. We are over 116 consultants, and work for different clients all over the world. To be honest, our in-context tool and the software behind this is very well received in the market. People just love to compare different ad formats and different platforms with this software, and you will learn a lot about this software and its applications today. That should be enough for iSquare. First of all, when we talk about ads and ad effectiveness, iSquare, and maybe our name says it already, the first step we're taking there is like we want to understand how long do people look on ads, the windows of attention. That's very important because if you want to make a successful communication, you have to know, or you have to take into consideration how much time you have for this communication. As our joke in the beginning, right? If I would have prepared 150 slides for today, maybe the main message wouldn't come through, and that's the same here. So first of all, we will look into a meta-analysis of attention. How long do ads get attention? And we have done this analysis for over 2,000 ads, all different kind of platforms. So this is mixed up here. It's just like a very broad overview. How long do people look at ads? And if you count this together and do a meta-analysis, there's one first very important result, and you can see it here. quite simple. If you look at these different ad contacts, more than half of these ad contacts are below 2.5 seconds. And the other half is longer than 2.5 seconds. So the first message you can get here is, and especially this is somehow and sometimes shocking for especially advertisers, all right, the half of my ad contacts probably below 2.5 seconds. So we don't have that much time if you talk to people that look at advertisement, right? That's the first thing you can see here. And we can, of course, dig into this and have a look on the next slide and see, all right, if you see on the x-axis here, okay, how many percentage of these ad contacts were there 100% and were then be more longer than 1 second, 2, 3, and so on and so on. You see, wow, this is diminishing very fast. So you see in the first seconds, you really have a strong drop of percentages. And what you can see, maybe to put this number here, only 10% of all ad contacts are longer than 8 seconds, right? So that's another indicator that you should be quite fast with the conversation. And maybe not surprising if you reflect that you are also, let's say, a customer and a user of platforms. Normally, people are not so keen to see advertisement. There are a lot of strategies to avoid advertisement, right? So this is something which is reflected in these numbers here in a way. But there's hope, and that is what you can see on the next slide. Now we have a quite complex analysis here. It's a regression model, and in the end, it shows let's say the correlation between how long do people look at an ad. You see it again on the x-axis, and this is combined with the recognition, which is a very famous ad effectiveness KPI. That means where people, after having contact to an ad, are able to recognize this ad and really say, okay, yeah, I've seen this ad while watching TV or while watching YouTube or whatever. And what you see is this is not a linear relationship here. So basically, what you can see is in the first seconds, there's a very, very steep increase of recognition rates. That means it's really important that you have the difference here between 1, 2, or even 3 seconds, right? So in the beginning, there's a lot of music, so to say, in data. But then if you continue on this time scale here, you can see if you move to 10 seconds, if you have 10 seconds of attention or 12, it doesn't matter so much anymore, right? So this is the first very important thing here. So it's very important what happens in the first seconds and not so important what happens after second 10 or 15, right? That's something you can see here in this. And you
so
see
also, Stefan, that means after even half a second, you already have 50% of recognition, right? So that's not that bad, right?
That's not that bad. Of course, depends on the creative itself, right? So you have channels that are working with this. You know, if you do out-of-home advertisement or print advertisement, you have only below a second to just make your point and make your recognizable. And of course, there are other.
Why did you make this 2.5? Why is there this threshold? What's special about it?
It's a turning point of the curve. We could now dive into the mathematics of this, but it's like until this point, it's still increasing. And afterwards, it's decreasing, yeah, in a way. I'm not a specialist here, but this is a turning point, so to say, which makes totally sense. You've seen this also the half of the people that are in the first half, and the other one is in the second half. Yeah, that's a turning point here of this curve, so to say.
Yeah. So to anyone in listening and hearing, put your questions in the Q&A, not the chat. And Eric has a question. How does this vary between video static format or static formats?
It varies, but still, it's not only about like static and video. You will learn this in the next minutes. It's more about like the platform and the kind of video ads. So to be honest, we see a quite similar curve and the same turning point at 2.5 seconds if you go into video advertisement, but in the social media world, right? So if you would look at this at, let's say, a video advertisement within a social feed, you would see basically the same curve like this. At the same turning point. Yeah, but first of all, for us it was important just to like aggregate everything and then have like this one number, and the 2.5 magical seconds, we called it 2 years ago. That was a really like a number that lots of advertisers and marketers really learned can still connect us with these numbers. All right. So yeah, learnings. Most ad contacts are very short. Advertising needs to be adapted to the available time window. That's important to make your message come through. And yeah, within the first 2.5 seconds, there are the strongest effects, and that is very important that you are really concentrating on these first seconds within the ad contact. Now we come to the first, let's say, more handy case study, I would say, where we're combining different social media platforms. In this case, it was Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. We had 15 ads on these platforms. Good thing is like what we can do with our in-context technology, and you see it on the next slide. We can, and that everyone market researcher loves, we can do experimental designs, right? So we can just control and say if someone is on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, they will see this and that ad, and this allows us to do experimental design testing here. And that's what we did in 2021 in the US. And yeah, to give you an idea of how in context look like, you can look at these videos here, and you see, this is Facebook, Instagram, and obviously YouTube. But this is not the real platforms, but our in context platforms, right? So you see, this is still very, very live, interactive. People can scroll, do whatever they want. They see a lot of things. And at the same time, you see these nice dots there. I can start this again, maybe. And this is webcam eye tracking. So in this case, we combined the in-context testing with the measurement of eye tracking. So we exactly know how long did people look towards these different ads. And the numbers you can see then on the next slides are an aggregation about these 15 ads we tested on each platform, which were the same ads, right? And yes, these are the numbers. So if you look at the average time, how long did people look towards the different ads here on the different platforms, you see this result. Let's start with YouTube. You see it's 3.6 seconds. It's not that long for a video, but still it's more than double the time than you have on Facebook and Instagram, right? So thing is on YouTube, you have to wait a little bit, at least 5 seconds before you can skip the ad. On Instagram and Facebook, you can just scroll by, and some people are really fast scrolling through this social feeds. So this is the time you have, and this is, I would say, first very important thing to know. And maybe there are some people now saying, yeah, wow, this is great for YouTube, and maybe YouTube is more than twice as good as Facebook and Instagram. But you remember the curve, and this is now an extreme example where you can even see a different effect. That's not the way it is. So if you now combine this with recognition rates, you see, although on YouTube you have the longest attention window of 3.6 seconds, recognition rates are lower than on these very fast platforms, Facebook and Instagram. And this is, in the first point, a quite unnormal result, right? So we as researchers normally would expect, okay, at least there has to be some correlation between length of attention and recognition. So now we have to understand, why is this? And of course, there's I would say maybe a very simple explanation. We can look at these one very fast. So what you can do is, like, if you look at eye tracking data, you see, a lot of, if you look on the right side, a lot of the attention that goes towards the ad on YouTube goes towards the skip button. Because what do people do? They just look at the countdown and count and then wait for their skip button to click it, right? Because they are waiting for the video they have selected before. That's one thing, but we think there is another thing that is very important, and we summed it up here. So of course you have the skip button thing, but the other thing is we see different qualities of attention. On the right side on YouTube, this is the forced exposure. So as said, users chose their video and then have to wait for their video and are forced to watch an ad before. And this is something completely different from what you can see on the left side on Instagram and Facebook. There you have always the possibility just to scroll further. So the 1.6 or 1.7 seconds there, that's voluntary attention, right? This is attention that users really liked to give towards these ads. And yeah, this is a completely different situation. And there are other things, like you see the ads mostly take more space and are more centered on Instagram and Facebook, while on YouTube it's on top of the screen with a lot of distraction below. So there are other reasons maybe, and you have a really strong branding from the beginning on, because you have a sponsorship above the ad. So there are other reasons why these ads maybe work in a shorter time. But yeah, I think this forced exposure against voluntary attention, this is something really important we should keep in mind. All right, for this case, what we've seen again, attention is not linear. More attention does not always produce more effect. In this case, even worse, more attention leads to less effect. And yeah, voluntary attention is a very different thing from forced exposure, what we've learned. All right, next case. Now we look on TikTok versus Instagram. What we've done here is, again, a study with not that much ads. So it was 4 ads on every platform, 2 different for Samsung, 2 different for Sanbam. There was another focus here, like image and product focused ad, but this is not so important. What we want to look at today is really the comparison between the 2 different platforms. And first of all, what you can see here is this time the formats here are quite the same. So you see you have Insta stories, it's full screen experience of the ad. The same goes for TikTok, right? You have a full screen experience, it's voluntary, so you can just swipe for the next video, no problem, anytime you want. So it's not about the ad format anymore. If you see here differences, in this case, we have to conclude that this must have something to do with the platform itself, right? So let's dive into this. What we see here, there are differences. Although it's almost the same ad format, you see you have more time on Instagram. In this case, 4 seconds, around 4 seconds. And on TikTok, it's only 2.7 seconds. So TikTok seems to be the more fast platform where people tend to swipe faster towards the next video. And again, you could think, ooh, this is maybe then not so good for TikTok. But again, you see the other effect. If you look at recall rates, like free recall or recognition, doesn't matter. You see, again, shorter time window, stronger effect, although stronger effect for TikTok. And as said before, this time it has to be something within the platform itself. And what we did in the study, we asked the users afterwards, what do they do at the platforms? What do they expect from the platforms? What are their feelings when they're looking at these videos? And there's a big difference. And you can see this on the next slide here. So maybe we start with Instagram. What people say is on Instagram, that's why we call it expectation. They know the content, basically, right? They follow different friends and influencers and brands, and so they're quite aware of what will be happening within their section there and within this platform. And normally they really see, this is advertising, this is brand, and this is something that belongs to Instagram in a way. So people accept that products and brands do advertisement on Instagram. It's kind of the, let's say, DNA of this platform. And so they recognize quite early, and they tend to look at this, but maybe with less intensive engagement, right? Because, it's an ad, let's see what this is about. On TikTok, you have a completely different situation. We have a colleague from Concept M calling this the buzzer situation. People really don't know what will be the next video. And from every single piece and video, they have to decide very fast, oh, is this something for me? Is this really funny? Is this something I love? Or is this something I just swipe away, the buzzer situation, yes or no? And that leads to the situation that they are really surprised and they're really open to new content. And they, in the first seconds, really try to understand, what is this about? What is this about? Is this something for me? Is this something interesting? And although it's very fast, it is described as a very intensive moment with very intensive examination of the content of the video. And this is something where the ad and a brand can profit from, because there's a smaller time window, but very strong and effective attention in this situation. All right, so what we learned in this case is that despite its speed, TikTok is a very efficient advertising channel. All right, so now we've learned why Instagram is good, maybe better than YouTube, why TikTok is good in a certain situation. And YouTube, the thing with the skip button. But to assure you, there's something, of course, that works better on YouTube as well. And that's the next case we can see here. It's the Nike study, and it's about an ad called "Enjoy the Run." It's, I think, 2 years ago as well, when they put out this campaign on different channels. Was a really great and successful campaign across different channels. YouTube, Instagram were amongst many others. We did test this campaign amongst others, and what we did here, maybe it's important because you will not see recall rates in this case, but we have a special another. Maybe we can do another webinar about this, Frank, even which is called add to cart technology. So what we can do is afterwards, people were on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok or wherever, we can also send them towards, let's say, a shopping platform like Amazon, and say them and ask them to search for a certain product. And what we get out of this, we will see in a moment, is behavioral data that is much more reliable and predictable, or does better prediction for real sales than you have in a questionnaire, right? So, and that's what we did here. But again, the comparison we are behind in this case is like, okay, YouTube against Instagram. In this case, it was an ad. There was quite a funny ad, to be honest. We have Ilana Glazer, I would say a comedian, most people know in the US at least. And she's just outside of New York, and for herself, and say, okay, now she heard about this runner's high, and she wants to experience this runner's high. And she starts running, and but she still doesn't feel it. She's asking herself, I'm still not high though. Yeah. And then she completes running, and then suddenly there's another jogger saying hi to her, and then she realized, this is the runner's high. It's not the high, but the high, right? And that's a very funny situation then, and she stops, and they optimized, of course, these ads for different platforms. So on YouTube, it was like wide format. On Instagram, because it's mobile, mostly mobile only, it was like the vertical format. And they anticipated that on Instagram the sound will not always be on, so they put a text also on the video to make sure everyone gets the message even though the sound is not on. So the question here again was like how these different ads worked, and now we will dive into not recall rates, but let's say activation rates. We will look how these ad contacts on YouTube and Instagram affect shopping behavior on Amazon. People were just asked to look for runners on Amazon afterwards they had contact on the different platforms. And the good thing about these data is it's behavioral data. It's always much richer than you have it in questionnaires. So what you can see, you get a lot of data out of this, but we try to put it into a model, and we have this three, I would say, different things that are important here. So first of all, you see when people are in the product list and scroll through the product list, how long was your product that people have seen advertisement for in view? So did they stopping power, stopping, this looks like an interesting product. So this is the first awareness, we called it. Then the second one, even more important, consideration. How many of the users did actually look at the detail page, right? So this is the next step in the shopping funnel on Amazon. It's so interesting that you look on the product detail page. And of course, in the end, how many people did really add it to their cart, right, in this task. So these are three behavioral metrics we have out of this task. And now let's have a look. First of all, you see, YouTube, when they had contact on YouTube before, the product, you can see it here, is much more longer in the view when they are on Amazon later on. And this transfers also into how many percentage clicked on the detail page. So it was 34% on YouTube, but only 21% on Instagram, which is a great difference, right? So in real world would mean a world, so to say. Yeah. Yeah, most interesting, of course, is in the end how many put it to the cart, really decided to go for this shoe, and you see 23% on YouTube and 16% on Instagram. So the ad was more successful, much more successful on YouTube. And in this case, it's kind of what I explained at the beginning when I talked about that. You can see it here. You see the playback duration of the ad on YouTube in this case. Now we talk about playback duration, not real attention, was 8.3 seconds, and it was only 1.7 seconds on Instagram. So there's a big difference, and because this is something that really needs time because of the story, this runner's high. Yeah, people need a little bit of time to understand the story and get the joke and then the positive emotions that the kind of ad wants to provoke. So yeah, in the end, YouTube.
Stefan, is it the hypothesis that basically the story took longer than 1 or 2 seconds to really comprehend?
Yeah, sure. It is like you have to look, I think 7 or 8 seconds at least to get this to get this joke, right? So I mean, this is an average here. So there were also on Instagram, there were some few people that were watching longer, but most of them are really scrolling by very fast. Still not a bad ad because it starts with the product in view, very prominent, where she's like putting the shoes on, stuff like this. So people at least did get the main message, but was not so interesting, right? The joke made the whole thing much more interesting, obviously.
So it's basically says that for Instagram you need storylines which catch much faster.
Yeah, sure. And we have tested other ads. Let's say for Adidas and other story, right? So they really optimized for Instagram for the short window, and it turned out to be the better ad, even better than on YouTube. So you see, if you go for adaptations for different platforms and for different contexts, it makes the campaign stronger anytime. All right. So now I come to my, I mean, we have a little bit of time left, but I come to my last case, which is not really an I-square case, but a real huge study we did together in collaboration with Meta and Real Eyes. Real Eyes is another partner we have, partnering with them a lot, especially in the US. And Real Eyes, what we do is like the in context part, so we can, as you've learned now, send people to different platforms and make sure that they have contact to different ads there. And what Real Eyes is doing, they have a setup where they can measure attentive seconds towards the screen and emotional reactions via webcam. And together with Meta, we did a huge study. You see over 6,000 participants here with almost 17,000 ad contacts. So a lot of stuff we did here. This one is published also. Was a winning paper on the ARF this year, so you can also download it afterwards. I can just show some numbers out of it. It's a very interesting study, very groundbreaking. So I just wanted to finish this. Again, we have like this in context situation, so pre-survey, then our in context situation, and then a post-survey, very sharp, very short. I think we only ask 3 or 4 questions for ad effectiveness in the end. So main focus was on what happens within the ad contact in terms of attentiveness and how does this transfer into recall of the ads. You can see there was a really very strong discussion going on. Okay, on what kind of formats should we concentrate? And you see, wow, a lot of them, right? So you have different in-feed ads, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You have the short form video ads, which covers basically stories, reels, the whole TikTok world, so to say, YouTube Shorts. Most of them vertical videos, full screen experience, what you've seen here already as well. And then you have a third section, which is called streams. So this is online video. You have Facebook, Hulu, YouTube as representatives here. So in-stream on Hulu, it's a famous content provider, online video provider in the US, classical pre and mid-roll. So these were the 3 different, let's say, type of ads that were aggregated here, and where you will see results for in the next couple of slides. As said, very groundbreaking because so many different ad formats are taken into consideration. And first of all, you see something that is quite familiar. So first of all, you see visibility. That means how long was an ad visible on the screen. And there's a big difference. You see feed is the shortest one. Short form is a little bit higher. And then it's obviously the highest for streaming ads. Yeah, sometimes they're not skippable, so they're very visible on the screen. And then you see the red thing here is attentiveness. In this case, attentiveness means eyes on screen while the ad was playing. And you see again, okay, in feed is the shortest one. Then you have a short form, a mixture here of it's 2.9. Then you have 3.2 seconds. And streaming ads, it's not only YouTube here, as said, but also Hulu and other things. These are 7.6 seconds. Yeah. So again, you see, wow, there's a big difference, and maybe an advantage here for streaming ads. When it comes to engagement, and at this time, engagements just means where there are clicks, likes, shares, whatever towards these ads, you see, there's a different picture. Engagement got the highest numbers for the short in-feed ads, and the lowest for in-stream ads, which makes sense if you just think of what you're doing on these platforms. Totally makes sense. Now look on the next slide. You see a correlation or displayed again attentiveness. So how long do people look towards these different ad formats in seconds? And you see recall rates here. This is brand recognition, and you see at this time with this mixture, there's almost no differences. So although there are big differences when it comes to attentiveness, there are no differences when it comes to recognition rates.
So stream has high attention seconds, and but the same brand recognition.
Yeah.
So to get the slide before right, actually those with highest visibility and intention scored lowest in engagement. So basically, the measurement is not predictive at all to see outcomes, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's I think attention is a very, very important thing to understand how to make creatives right, to understand, okay, how much time do I have for my creative on average? But you should not like do this and say, okay, 7 seconds, it's twice as good at 3.5 seconds, because this may work if you're within one channel, right? If you have 2 YouTube campaigns with the same idea and the same, let's say, product you advertise it for, and you get 7 seconds with one ad and only 3 seconds with the other, this might be also a strong indicator that the one ad with more attention on YouTube was the better one on YouTube. But if you start to compare different media channels, this game might be not working anymore, right? That's the point here again. And you see they're much more interesting, if you want to dive into it in this paper, much more interesting analysis here, and still going on, I think. You can imagine it's a huge data set. But what you see here is, again, something that maybe is quite related. So you see for feed and short form videos, people tend to need much less time to have a successful recall than on streaming ads, right? You need much more time on streaming ads to recognize the brand, and that's really towards mostly towards the ad formats themselves. In-feed ads, as said, always have like this sponsored by situation above the ad. So what we know from research is people, when they happen to run into an ad, the first view is always who's talking to me here, yeah, who's the brand, who's the sender of this message. So that's what people get within the first seconds normally, and it's a completely different story if you are in the streaming world. Then you just have the pre-roll or the mid-roll, whatever, and it's up to the creative itself when they reveal what kind of brand we are talking about. Right? Sometimes you have an ad that makes a nice story and a great joke, but only reveals at the end which kind of brand or product this all is about. And that is a high risk, especially for YouTube if you have skippable ads. So yeah, that's something you can see here, and you should have in mind as an advertiser. That's the profiles, right? You've seen this before, the retention curves. So the share of viewers, so to say, that looked at the ad more than a certain time span. And you see, of course, this is decreasing very, very fast for the feed. So you see, although you have like an average of, let's say, 2 or 3 seconds, of course, you have 10% in the ad that even watches these ads towards the end, right? Because they just want to. It's interesting for them. They like it. And you see this amount really grows if you go into the other formats, right? So short form, you see the same picture, but it's not so fast and not so steep in the first seconds, and then stabilize more around 15% here. And you see for streaming ads, it's a different game. So they start with a lower rate here because people know there will be streaming ads. There is these typical ad breaks, so they can do just other things, right? They, as said in the beginning, people know how to avoid ads, and they can just look somewhere else or do something else, whatever, grab a cup of tea or whatever they want to do. But in the end, it's quite stable. So you see, there are a lot of people watching it full time because they just don't know what they want to do, in the meantime. So that's the different things here, and you should keep this in mind if you do advertisement on these different channels. So what we learned here is, if you like, you could cluster online videos into 3 different groups here. Let's say feed, shorts, and stream. We have learned even this is maybe something not right. So we've learned about like shorts. That was the example with TikTok and Instagram. Even there are differences that might be important for you as an advertiser. But in the end, if you want to cluster it into these three groups, you see very different situations how attention is converted into recall and ad effectiveness. And the one thing that's, I would say, my closing remark, if you want to do this right, if you want to understand how your campaign works and how you should do your creations and creatives to engage with the audience in the best possible way, you should do in context testing. That's the closing remark I want to say. So that's the beauty of this software we're providing here. What I would say most of the people like is they can combine media questions, as we've done it here in this cases. So they can compare different media channels with each other with this technology because they can just put the same campaign into different channels. And at the same time, they can do pre-testing. So they can, if they have 2 or 3 good ideas still in the run, they can do an ABC testing on each platform and see, okay, which of these creatives works best on which platform, and so you can optimize your campaign with the pre-testing. This combination is really appreciated by a lot of clients. And with this, I want to say thank you for your attention.
Yeah, great, Stefan. Great examples. Hey, let me summarize it from my side and see if I got it right. Yeah. So I mean, we are nearly exhausted the time budget, but let me close this with that. So basically, you measure and you show an ad in the real context, and afterwards you measure some kind of KPIs, and with that, you obviously showed lots of interesting insights, and those insights basically telling me that the attention and the result I'm getting from an ad is highly depending on many factors. One is the context of the platform. The second is the intention of the user in the platform. And third is the whether or not the content is optimized for those contexts. And the fourth is that the type of video, because ad is not ad, even at Instagram, there are different kind of video formats, and all this complexity basically makes it super hard to really predict how well this is going to work out. And that's why it's so important to test it in the environment it is shown. And basically, yeah, with this approach, it's possible. Is it fair summary?
I couldn't have done it better. So it's even more. It's like it's screen size. So especially for YouTube, right? So YouTube is not YouTube. If you watch YouTube on a big screen with a full screen experience, it's a completely different world to YouTube on the go on mobile. Yeah. So it's even screen size. We've even found in the latest study there are cultural differences. So people in US react differently to kind of a certain kind of ad formats than do people in Germany, for example, right? So but most important, I would say, is ad format, what kind of format you have, and the platform itself, what kind of expectations do users have, and maybe to add this. It's not only attention is, I would say, a really complex thing, right? And if you talk about meaningful attention, it's not only dwell time or viewer duration or stuff like this. You always have to combine it with like understanding of what people want there, with ad effectiveness measurements, and you could even enrich this and say, okay, we would like to understand emotions. was this, like you could look at something and could be really annoyed. That would be something that is really going into the wrong direction. And we can measure this, right? We can also
that's what I really also found interesting, that you're not just measuring these kind of recognition, but can basically combine it with other success measures. And we recently done this together and measured afterwards the willingness to buy the product with a Supra tool, right?
That's another good example.
With a Samsung example with Stefan Schmidt, who led this study, showed that the right ad brought €100 more willingness to pay, and just by combining another implicit measurement from Supra Tools to it. That's why I think it's super powerful. Love it.
Me too.
Wonderful. Stefan,
all right.
Thank you so much for enlightening us today.
Thank you, Frank, for inviting me.
And everyone having more questions should be encouraged to reach out to Stefan. What's your email again, Stefan?
My email is Schönherr
With
@i-square.com with OE, right?
Right. Wonderful.
Yeah, would have been a good idea to put it here, right? But yeah.
Yeah. If you cannot write Schönherr, write me an email, frank@supra.tools, and I forward it.
Cool.
Thank you so much for joining, everyone. Enjoy your day. See you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.